Yes, yes, yes. What is up? What is up, MCR family? I would say another weekly edition of the show, but we haven't done a show in like a month and a half, like maybe close to 2 months, to be quite honest. More like a month than like a week or so. Like
I think it's been like exactly a month, right? Because it was right before the Canelo fight, which was a month ago.
Like we did like a month and a week. It's a month and a week now. Like it's December 14th.
And that Canelo was like November 13th, wasn't it?
No, he was the 7th. Hold on, I have it up right here. Hold on. No, the 6th. I was even more correct.
The last one was like the 4th, let's say. Yeah.
It's been over a month and a week. Long time.
Wow.
I missed you, Gary.
Yeah.
We have a lot to talk about. A lot of fights. Teofimo Lopez lost to George Kambosos.
I don't know why that makes everyone smile. Like, what did Tio do to y'all? Like,
no, dude, come on. Even if like you're not like a Tio hater, because like I'm not really a Tio hater, Gary. Like, you know, we're kind of the Tio fanboy show at times, right?
I'm a Tio fan. I mean, I like Tio.
I'll be honest though,
fanboy, but I usually root for Tio.
He was a little bit wilding out before the fight. I'll say that.
He obviously, this was his. The comparisons to this and Buster Douglas are like staggering to me.
Is it really?
Like Tyson didn't even have like inswell in his corner. Like they had a rubber glove filled with ice. Like, and all Tio's dad would say was go fuck him up. Like that was all the advice he had for him. It's like, yeah, but Dad, that's not working. Like, how do I do that, Dad? Like, that was it. Like, that was the advice he gave him every single round. It's like, yeah, Dad, how? Like,
so good,
like,
man.
Matt, go outside and build a 100-foot skyscraper. How? Just go out and build a skyscraper, Matt. It's like, I don't know how to do
that, man. Dude, it's so good. Oh, man. Honestly, we have so much to get. Devin Haney looked fantastic against Joseph Diaz. I know we didn't do a show on it, but I'm pretty sure I picked JoJo. I think you did as well, Gary.
I said it was 50-50, but I was leaning towards JoJo. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we were both sort of leaning towards like his experience, his style. I thought he was gonna rough up Haney a lot more. You know, I do know some things I can't really report on just because I don't have secondary sources to confirm it. But like I have heard a lot of things about JoJo.
Well, you could just say allegedly. And then
allegedly, JoJo was wilding out in a far more potentially illegal way before his fight. So I don't know what's going to come of that, but stay tuned potentially for news to come out in the.
I heard someone describe JoJo Diaz as everyone's fun Mexican uncle. Whatever that means, you know what that means, who just happens to be one of the best fighters in the world, right? Like, he's fun, he's a blast. Everyone likes hanging out with JoJo, you know, because he's the life of the party kind of thing. And like, you know, that kind of lifestyle kind of catches up to you. You know, I don't know what you know, but like he's a party guy. He's happy. He's drinking. He's, you know, he's closing on 30 now, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
He has to
be over 30 almost. Let's be real.
I mean, he was 19 in 2012. 30. What do you know? Allegedly,
I can't talk. It's way too honestly. Like it's some extreme stuff that like will get him in hot water. Like a similar fighter got in hot water not too long ago that got him out of a pay-per-view. That's all I'm going to say on it.
Oh, really? So nothing fun. Not fun.
Nothing fun.
Really? Okay.
No,
I thought it was like David Benavidez what he lost his belt for, allegedly. What he claimed. I'm not even saying allegedly. He claimed it was prostitutes and coke.
Which is
it's got to be true, right? Why would you make that up? I get it, right? It is harmless, but like again, he's one of your representatives. I may not want someone like that to represent my brand. Again, he didn't harm anyone, but the WBC, I think, has the right to strip him too. Like, there's got to be like some kind of clause that if you get caught doing hookers and coke, I can take away your crown, right? I mean,
digressing. I won't get into that. Oh my god, because like. Never mind. We have a lot to get to. A ton of fights. Okay. Like Dimitri Bivol fought, Koze Tanaka, Naoya Inoue fought, I think last night or whatever in Japan, though we don't get any television of it here in the US, even though he's with top ranking ESPN.
Because they don't have Wi-Fi in Japan, Matt. That's why. They can't stream the fight in Japan.
Japan. Everyone knows it's not really a technological country, right? Like everyone knows that, right?
That's what Dan Rayfield tweeted. He said that they didn't have a signal to send the fight. It's like in Japan. In Japan.
No, Dan Rayfield, like that wasn't a joke tweet. Like that was a legit tweet.
I took it as him being serious, just not having no idea what he. I thought Dan meant it. He was just not. He's just not the smartest guy in the world, right? Like.
Gary, I miss you, man. Oh, I miss this show. Oh, I miss it so much. So good.
I think Dan meant it when he said like, but he got bad information and didn't realize it was bad information.
I fucking love it. Anyways, so much to get to, Gary. We're probably not even gonna like touch on any news per se.
We got Barrios and Keith Thurman.
Is that like official?
That's official. Contracts are signed January 29th, whatever that Saturday is.
Dude, it's the same day. It's the same day as our card. I'm so mad.
But I mean, really, like, look, why? I don't think that fight makes sense for anybody. Why doesn't Keith Thurman fight an established welterweight? And why doesn't Mario Bob?
It makes sense for Keith Thurman as a comeback tune-up fight. If we're being like super pragmatic about like that matchup, right, Gary? Like the cynical look at it is it should be a tune-up for Keith Thurman, who's a natural welterweight. Barrios is not, and Barrios got knocked out by a super featherweight.
A lightweight, yeah. Well, super featherweight. I mean, he's a lightweight. He's a lightweight, right?
Yeah.
He never really made 130. He may have technically been a super featherweight, but never really made that weight. It is a lightweight, right? So that's why I don't really get the fight. It doesn't, like, I get why Mario's taking. I talked to Mario and his trainer. This is back in August, so not long before the, not long after the Tank Davis fight. And I said, you know who you should fight? Robert Guerrero. And he's like, I'll fight anybody. And that's his answer. So I get that. And then I said to him, okay, great. Then let's just go straight into the Ugas fight. So this is right after Ugas beat Pacquiao. So it's right around that time. And his co-trainer goes, no. So now you're taking a more difficult fight? Again, if Barrios wants it, it's his fight. They're going to take it, right? And we'll just prepare you the best we can. But, like, that's Keith Thurman as your first fight at welterweight?
I mean, okay, I'm going to play the counter argument here, right? Devil's advocate, because Daniel Edwards in the chat saying, I put a bet on Barrios. I know Gary's happy about that. Thurman isn't good for business. I don't know really what that second comment means, because I don't think Thurman's been absolutely good for business for PBC, Showtime, and Fox. I think that's
how many ratings has he done in the last 2 years?
He hasn't fought in 2 years. He hasn't fought in 2 years.
That's my point, right? Like,
when he fights, it's good. When he fights, he's good for business.
When being operative, Keith once in a while, Thurman, yeah.
Gary, come on. I mean, him and Pacquiao did 500,000 pay-per-view buys.
Number. They did great. I think it was 600. It was
every time he's on TV, he does great ratings. He does great gate revenue. Like Thurman does good business.
He's good in that sense, right? Yeah, he's good when he fights. He's a draw for sure. And I think this fight will do 300,000. Right? I think it'll do what the Davis fight did. I think it will.
Or like a 250 mark.
Yeah. This Luis Ortiz card, this is gonna bomb.
Oh, but back to my point about being, double advocate for Keith Thurman losing this fight. I mean, again, you sort of allude to it. He hasn't fought in going on 2-3 years. His last fight was a loss. He's a guy that hasn't seemed interested in boxing for a long time. Barrios, even though I don't think he is the highest of caliber, definitely a guy that's dedicated to the craft. So can Barrios outwork Thurman, who is, rusty, older, and not really in a position to make another title run, perhaps? I mean, isn't that the counter argument?
Sure, right? So let me play devil's advocate to your devil's advocate. He's 33. That's not that young, but it's not that old. It's Crawford's age. It's a year older than Spence. It's not that old. He's 33. It's not young. It's not old. And what if his body is better now because he's rested? Like, he hasn't been taking a beating. He's been resting his body. He's been in China, in India. That's where he goes, right? That's where he's from, India, I think, right?
No, it's Nepal.
Nepal. Yeah, he was in Nepal chilling, getting that all natural. And his body's feeling good now.
Her dad lives in Japan and owns, I think, either clubs or bars in Japan. I forget exactly what he owns. I remember him telling us this.
But Japan's, that's how they met. Japan's not a place you chill out in, right? Like, there's no chilling in Japan, right?
What about like cherry blossom trees?
What are they in, like the middle of cities? Like, I don't think of Japan as a place that you go to chill out. Like, is there? Like, I just think like it's congested. It's all maybe I could be wrong. I've never been there.
There's like Shinto and like Buddhist temples you can go to. There's whole mountain ranges. I mean, the whole north of Japan isn't that like densely populated.
Okay, I mean, I just don't think of maybe I don't
know.
They have
forest. They have the whole suicide forest thing. I mean, come on.
Yeah, okay. I mean, all right. Maybe I don't know. Just thinking he's been chilling in Nepal, getting all natural treatment. His body feels good. His body feels refreshed, and he's ready to go.
How is Nepal more relaxing? That shit's like 2 miles up into the sky. Like, you have no like oxygen density. Like, you're just like you're fucking barely.
I've never really spent much time like at high altitudes. When I was in New Mexico, wow, that's like hard to breathe, man. Like,
fuck yeah.
Like, you finally get used to it, but it takes like a full 48 hours to like get used to like I can't breathe. That's crazy.
Damn. Honestly, the chat, Gary, you know what?
I'm not saying he doesn't have a chance to win, right? If you want to make the argument that the timing is perfect, okay, it still doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would you? When Amir Khan was a hot prospect at one point, he got knocked out. Did you go put him in, and then he moved up from 135 to 140? Did you put him in with the biggest puncher at 140, his first fight back? No, you let him get acclimated to the division, and you gave him guys that couldn't really hit, and you built his confidence back up. You didn't stick him right in with Marcos Maidana. You gave him fights in the interim, right? Like, I just don't get why first fight in. I would like to see him fight Francisco Santana, something like that, like Granados. Josecito Lopez is still a little bit much, right? But I could do that. Brian Perella. Have him fight someone like that. Like, why are you doing this his first fight?
Shout out to you, Fern. Also, Liam, I'll get to your comment in a second saying PBC are on brink of bankruptcy. Fox have cut the budget. Showtime never had the budget. The business model is only successful with big boxing stars. Gary, was there a report? Because again, I've not heard
that. I've not heard that. Liam, can you send a link or something? I like to see it.
Here's the reality, guys. It's boxing. Like, it doesn't even like make money on paper. It's boxing. Like, if you don't understand what I'm saying here, like, sorry, guys. Anyways, you mentioned Crawford. I totally forgot. Crawford Porter also happened in the time frame we haven't done a show, so we have to talk about Crawford Porter as well. I have to probably eat a lot of words that I've said about Crawford in the last few years, Gary.
Yeah, I've never really questioned Crawford's skills. It's just like he's not been fighting the best guy. So what happens when now all of a sudden, after all these years, well, he's never really been in a dog fight, right? The toughest fight he's been in with was Gamboa, a fight that, Gamboa was, and that was years ago. It was the last time he was really in a fight where he had, you didn't know who was going to win after 2 rounds.
Anyways, we're going to get to that in a bit. Let's try to get some order in here, Gary, because there's so much that happened. Like, me and you can just ramble about shit. I know us. Let's talk about whose era this is. Canelo Alvarez, the GOAT, the God, whooping your boy's ass. Thoughts, Gary? How did it feel, Gary, watching that?
The fight went almost exactly how I called it. Like, except I picked Caleb Plant to win because just to be different. But like if you listen to my actual analysis, I said Plant will do okay. It'll be an evenish fight for a while, and then Canelo will pull away and break him down, and maybe stop him late. Maybe it goes the distance and stop him late. I want that one. Like, here's my issue, and it's the same reason why I thought Jojo Diaz had a chance against Haney than people gave him credit for. You can't run from Canelo for 12 rounds. Like, he's going to hit you in the arm. He's going to hit you in the body. He's going to get inside and break you down. Like Haney did with Jojo, there are times where you're going to have to sit and trade with them. I'm not saying that's your 12-round plan to battle is to sit in and trade with them on the inside, but you can't run. You're going to get fatigued. You're going to lose your legs, and you're going to see Caleb Plant, systematically break down over time, and Canelo getting strong, right? And that's what happened. You can't sit there and run from a guy who's that skilled on getting in on you, right? Like, there are guys, Marcos Maidana, who we named before, more of a brute force, like a blunt object, than he doesn't have the skills Canelo did, but if he got inside, he was going to hurt you, right? Canelo's going to get on the inside. He's too skilled not to. You're not keeping him off of you for 12 rounds. It's not going to happen. You can't sit there and run from him for 12 rounds. It's not going to happen, right? Like, and Mayweather did this too. Mayweather Cotto. Mayweather Canelo. He was standing in, not for 12 rounds, but there were times he's standing in boxing him. You can't sit there and run. And if that's your game plan against Canelo, you get knocked out late. Can you beat him on the inside? No, but there's not really any beating Canelo. I said, give me a model. Give me someone who can beat Canelo. Triple G who can move. That guy doesn't exist right now, so no one's beating Canelo right now that I know.
Caleb Plant, to his credit, because I know I'm shitting on him. He did probably put on the best performance against Canelo since the Triple G fights. Right?
It did. And how did it end? It ends like this. If your plan is to run, then this is what you run into. Like, it's inevitable. You're not going to run from Canelo for 12 rounds.
I mean, there were spots where like Caleb Plant was trading with Canelo. He just didn't find success in it.
Yeah.
That's the reality. I mean, Canelo is one of the best, mid-punch combination artists that we've seen. His ability to duck under your shot and connect with his own is superb. It's sublime. I mean, Gary, it's very hard for me to see Canelo lose to anyone. I know he's going up to cruiserweight now and fighting Macaboo in the Congo, right?
I think Canelo's playing with fire, but we get into that. I'm not saying he's going to lose. I'm saying he's playing with fire here.
Oh, he's absolutely playing with fire because Macaboo's the shit.
I've watched some tapes on him now. He's pretty good. Like,
I love watching fights.
He's not tall, right? He's only about 6 foot, which is still substantially, but it's not tall for a cruiserweight, right? He's built like Canelo, but a lot, 6 foot tall, right? Like, he comes up and he likes to fight on the inside. So it's a well-picked fight against a champion, right? But it's like the one cruiserweight that Canelo can beat, right? And then after he beats him, what's the next fight? Bang, mega fight with Usyk.
He could beat Lawrence Okolie.
This is tough. Man, he's 5'8". He's 5'8". I know he comes up from 140, but let's say 47 and 54 is where he kind of made his bones, and then he came up, and now he's undersized height-wise for a 168-pounder. Now he's jumping up 2 more weight classes. I know he beat Kovalev at 75. Well done. At a certain point, there's a limit. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if Macaboo is in.
When he beats your boy Usyk, Gary, what are you going to say? What are you going to say, Gary?
I got nothing. If he beats Usyk, I got nothing.
I'll be honest though, Gary. I do believe that's like at least like a plan B or C or something like that for them. That if Usyk consolidates the heavyweight picture, they want that's a feasible heavyweight fight for them because Usyk isn't a big heavyweight, isn't the biggest power puncher.
I'm thinking about this, right? Canelo's head. How do I surpass Floyd Mayweather? Right? Because Mayweather's already beat me. How do I propel my legacy above me? Go to heavyweight, be the undisputed heavyweight champ. Bang! I'm not saying he's beating Macaboo or Usyk, but
if
things
he does,
are lining up for him where he's going to get a short cruiserweight and a smallish heavyweight champ, where at least you think he has a shot.
Fuck it, he should just fight like Usyk ASAP.
It's like
as soon as possible after McAvoy.
I agree with you, right? Beat McAvoy and then fight Usyk. I mean, because Usyk's gonna beat Fury for sure.
But let's say he doesn't and loses, and then like you now have a 6'9" fucking heavyweight that it's not an option.
Yeah, that's not. It was like when Roy Jones got Ruiz. Roy Jones was not about to fight Lennox Lewis. Ruiz and maybe Holyfield. Okay, Holyfield's 215. Ruiz is garbage. I can fight those guys. I'm not fighting Lewis. That's ridiculous.
Oh man. Anyways, I mean, is there anyone right now that you see that's a threat to Canelo, or is it only like these giant jumps in weight that are
at 175? I think Better Beef is. Again, I'm not saying that he's going to lose these fights. Better Beef would be a heck of a fight at 75. No one else is going to really have a chance. Better Beef's a heck of a fight.
I mean, it's a fun fight, but I still think he beats Better Beef. Right? Like everything Better Beef does, Canelo does better.
But Better Beef's naturally bigger, right? Like
yeah, but Canelo has all that fucking Mexican beef running through his veins, man. He's knocking out everyone now. Canelo all of a sudden has power. Like the Canelo at 154 that was like fighting like Angulo and Laura and all that fucking shit, like Miguel Cotto. He never had this type of pop.
Yeah, he might have been cutting too much weight, right? He might not have his legs, he might not have his power, and now he feels stronger at the higher weight. Like you go to Barrios, right? Barrios was when he came up, he was a 6 foot tall, 122 and 26 pound. Check it out. I know most people don't realize that. He started at 22 and 26, right? And then he was fighting at 30, and he couldn't make the weight anymore. And then they moved him up from 30 straight to 40, and he got 9 straight knockouts, right? So a lot of times it's like, I'm cutting too much weight, I'm losing my strength. So, I mean, that Canelo is destroying everyone now, right? Like, Canelo breaks you. Like, he might have been cutting too much weight at 54 and 60, and this is a better fit for him.
I mean, that's possible, because, I mean, I know tons of guys that like 5'8", 5'9", that walk around 190, and they're built. You know what I mean? Like, they're just built like Canelo. They're fire hydrant motherfuckers. Like that's all they are. He just probably just doesn't want to cut weight. And I mean, I'm always in favor of fighters not cutting weight. Plus,
especially if it's physically draining to you, if it's costing you your legs and your power, it's not. Go up.
Also, Marcus Brown, Archer Better Beef this weekend. Gary, you picking Better Beef? Yeah, me too.
Plus, it's fun fight, but Better Beef's good, man. Better Beef's good.
Marcus Brown's track record outside the ring, nasty. That's all I'm gonna say on that. Anyways, Gary, any other thoughts on Canelo before we move on?
No.
The God, Canelo. The Canelo era, Gary, right? Like it's undisputed.
The Canelo era for sure. Yeah, there's no one else. It's not like Mayweather and Pacquiao. It's his era. I mean, there's no one else in the era. Like it's Canelo's era. Did we get a real pay-per-view number? Because I heard 800,000 and 400,000. Do we actually know what it is?
Who reported the 400,000?
I don't know. Rob sent it over a while ago. I don't know. And it was like 450 or something like that. And then there was also 800. How do we do this? It's not like someone said 450, someone said 475. It's like, yeah, it's in there spectrums here.
It's somewhere in that range, guys. It's just throw a dart, figure it out. Frank's saying, wait, what has Brown done? Oh,
in the ring or out of the ring?
Out of the ring. Frank, it's just like Google like Marcus Brown, like domestic violence, something like that. It pop up like a lot. Very sad. Anyways, getting to what seems to be happier news for the boxing world. Teofimo Lopez losing dramatically to mandatory George Kambosos Jr. Gary, I mean, honestly speaking, Is this the upset of the year? And if it is, where does this rank with like recent upsets, like
So I
Mike
mean,
Garcia, Sandor Martin, which might be in the running for this year, stuff like that?
it's not just it's upset of the year, it's upset of the decade, right? Like, and I don't know, it's one of those two. It's just like, I was like, in the Olympics, the two best fighters in the Olympics, Keyshawn Davis and Andy Cruz, happen to fight in the same weight class. So only one of them can win a gold, right? 8 boxers win a gold, but the two best, only one of them will win. The two best upsets we've seen in a decade both happened this year, so only one can be upset of the year.
And of the decade.
End of the decade.
And you can't switch. Like, it wouldn't make sense.
No, you got to stick with it, right? What's the bigger upset? No one knew who Sandor Martin was. Like, no one knew who he was. I still say it's that one, but there's a good argument to be made for Teofimo Lopez.
The reality is that, like, the counter argument is that, like, Mike Garcia had already dropped off to a point where, like, the boxing public wasn't viewing him as the title contender that he was, or the champion that he was in other divisions, right? Like, he was a guy that clearly wasn't as interested in boxing, looking for super fights with, like, Manny Pacquiao, and then having huge time off, looking awful in fights at welterweight. Every welterweight fight he has had, he's looked awful. I mean, Teofimo Lopez just beat Lomachenko, undefeated, knocked out Richard Comey, and loses to a guy that struggled to get a split decision with Ricky Burns. I mean, yes, Sandor Martin's a complete nobody, but let's be honest, Gary, the second Mike Garcia fought a Spanish fighter, it was a wrap. Because Spain has been dominating this year in boxing.
They have. Too bad Sergio Garcia couldn't pull off the trifecta.
Fuck,
he was close. He was competitive, and it was a good fight. It was a good fight.
That was a good fight. That was a really good fight. Yes.
For a while, it was looking like he was turning the tide. Like, they're going to pull off this Spaniard trifecta here.
The issue is that he was fighting a fight that he just has never fought before, ever. Like, we've seen a lot of Sergio Garcia fights, Gary.
Yeah.
He never fights like that. Ever. But digress.
Fighting someone unique, right? Like, it's how do you fight him?
Who all of a sudden realized that, oh, I'm 6'6", and I can, I can throw a jab, and this guy can never reach me. Fuck, man, I should just do that for 10 rounds. Shout out to Fundora. But digressing, Kambosos in that first round obviously looked real rough until the knockdown. And then obviously that was just a fight-changing knockdown. From then on, it was Kambosos outboxing, roughing up Teofimo Lopez, and Lopez trying to regain some composure, trying to regain some momentum, regain some control, but doing everything wrong in the process to do that. I mean, what's your assessment of the fight, Gary? I have a lot of thoughts about the dad, especially with the way he was acting post-fight and how happy he was with Kambosos. I thought that was really weird. That was some Sean Porter, Cam Porter action right there. We can get to that later, too. I mean, this was just a significant upset. And Kambosos, I mean, to his credit, he's been everywhere in the boxing world since this win. I feel like every card I watch on a weekend since that win, he's on. Like, he's talking. So credit to him, man, maximizing that. But Gary, your thoughts?
I think it had more to do with Teofimo Lopez. And maybe there's a doctor or someone with medical experience, because they said after this fight he had air in his chest. And I'm not a doctor.
Hold on. Liam Ross was saying Kambosos never fought Ricky Burns. Sorry, I meant Lee Selby.
I'm sorry.
Did you say I'm sorry. I mixed up the white dudes from a tiny island. My bad, guys. My bad, Liam.
It's Lisa. Did you say Ricky Burns?
Yeah, but Ricky Burns fought Lee Selby.
Yeah,
and honestly, Ricky Burns won that fight. Shout out to Ricky Burns.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I think I did score that for Ricky Burns. Well, I think this had more to do. And they said after the fight that Teofimo Lopez had air in his chest, and me, I'm not a doctor, so I'm saying, of course he has air in his chest. How else could you breathe if you don't have air in your chest? I don't know what that means. If someone can explain it to me, like I'm 5, I'd appreciate that. I didn't understand how that was a medical thing, but I'm guessing it is because another doctor said he's lucky to be alive. I was like, how? All right, I don't understand. But I think it had more to do with a failure of preparation, a failure to prepare, and kind of like when Zab Judah lost to Carlos Boldemir. It's just like he was looking past that to a Mayweather fight, and that this was something. This is a blip on the radar. I don't care about this. I'll just carry myself through the day. It didn't happen. Like it just didn't happen for him. Kudos to Kambosos. He had his Buster Douglas moment. He can never replicate this performance again. And he did it against a guy who was half checked out when the fight started, thought he was going to walk through it. But he got it done. And now Kambosos is the big. He's at a Lakers game. He's on late night shows. He's at a Warriors game. He is at the Tank Davis fight. He's really enjoying this because he knows this is about his 15 minutes are ticking quickly. I have no confidence in Kambosos against the other lightweights like Devin or Tank or T.O., who I think he fights next. I got no confidence in him against those guys. But you know what? George Kambosos is the unified lightweight champion of the world, and you can never take that away from him.
Undisputed.
We could say that.
You can say that.
Although, I think Mauricio said that T.O. is undisputed. Then that makes Kambosos undisputed, or no? Help me out. Help me out, Mauricio.
All the other sanctioning bodies don't recognize it as undisputed, though, so it's really, it's really awkward. Anyways, I don't know about the idea of like Kambosos never being able to replicate this performance. The idea of him being able to win at a fight against Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia doesn't seem far-fetched to me at all. Would I pick him to win those fights? Not necessarily, especially after Devin Haney's performance against JoJo, but it's not out of the question. Like, I don't think this is a guy that was a jobber, so to speak, and like, dude, like all the stars aligned and he won. Like after the second round, like there was none. I mean, after the first round, there was another 11 rounds of action, another 33 minutes of fighting. And Lopez was trying everything he could, except a jab. And
the jab that carried the day for 7 rounds against Loma. But let's not even bother throwing that.
Not at all. Not at all.
I kept feeling like, okay, here's where T.O.'s going to turn it around and knock him out. Okay. Now, wait. Now do it. And he never did. And like I went back, originally I scored it 13-13, but I scored it with like Teofimo Lopez colored lenses on. I went back and scored it again the next day at 15-11 for Kambosos. Kambosos won that fight. Like in my head, I'm like, no, T.O. must be winning these rounds because he's fighting freaking George Kambosos. Kambosos won that. If you scored the fight for T.O., go back and watch it again. Sound off and no Teofimo Lopez colored lenses on and just watch it and score it objectively. Kambosos wins the fight.
Kambosos, I think, is gritty enough where he can win ballsy decisions like this against the top guys, but he's not going to do it every time out. Like being able to do this performance consecutively might be very difficult, or consistently might be obviously extremely impossible. But I think Kambosos can hang with that top 5. I mean, obviously he was a top 10 fighter. I just didn't think he was that great of a top 10 fighter. I didn't think he had that much pop, especially to hurt Lopez that way. I didn't think he had the boxing skill over Lopez, especially. But then again, I chalk a little bit of that up to Lopez just not using any of his boxing skills and tactics. I think correct me if I'm wrong, Gary. There was another coach with the team for the Loma fight that wasn't for this fight, right?
There was. Who was it? Liam probably knows. Liam? Look, Kambosos is obviously a top 10 lightweight. He's got the best win in the lot, right? Over Teofimo Lopez. He's got wins over Selby, and then who did he beat before Selby? He had 3.
Hank Lundy, was it? Hank Lundy?
No. It was hang on. Now you're gonna make me look it up. It's a name we know.
I thought it was Hammer and Hank. Mickey Bay.
So he's got good wins. I can name 10 guys at lightweight who beat him.
Name them.
No problem. All right, ready?
Yes.
And we're taking TFMO out because he's at 140 now.
That is true. He did say he's going up to 140. Yeah.
And you're not going to agree with these, but all of them. Tank Davis.
Yeah.
Vasily Lomachenko.
Yeah.
Devin Haney.
Yeah.
Ryan Garcia.
Yeah, I'm okay with that so far.
Jojo Diaz.
No.
Michelle Rivera.
No.
I had this list before.
Briefly, hold on. Why are you thinking of the other names? For those two specifically, Jojo went entire rounds with Devin Haney just with his hands up, eating punches, not throwing anything back.
That's Devin Haney.
Devin Haney is the most feather-fisted motherfucker we've seen in some time.
That's a lot, but he's not a puncher for sure. That's the most feather-fisted fighter. The most.
I'm not
like, there's
no one. I think I said one of. I think I said one of the most.
You said the most, but whatever. He's not a puncher for sure.
No, the most is probably Sonny Edwards, but that's beside the point. No, come on. Like Kambosos can absolutely outbox a unmotivated JoJo because JoJo is unmotivated right now.
If they fought tomorrow, well, not tomorrow, 3 months from now, I'd pick JoJo.
Okay?
I'm saying I'd pick all these guys to beat.
Michelle Rivera has not been looking that great in his last couple fights. We can be honest about that. He's looked a little bit suspect. Not suspect, but just looked a little bit.
Kambosos had one fight where he impressed you. One. Now he's got 2 other quality wins. I'm not taking those ones away. He won those fights. He didn't look stellar in those fights either, by the way.
True.
William Zepeda.
I'm not against it. I'm a Zepeda low-key stan. I'll allow it.
Isaac Cruz.
Stop.
I don't get this Kambosos thing. He's never going to have a night like this again. Ever. Ever. He's never going to have a night like this again.
Oscar in the chat saying Javier Fortuna and Jorge Linares. No and no.
I was going to name Jorge Linares. Actually, is my 10th guy.
Stop. Come on. This is disrespectful, Gary.
I don't get it. I don't.
Like, look, he can outbox Richard Comey too.
I was gonna say Comey, but I know you throw a fit. That's why I wasn't gonna say Comey. Although, kind of in my head, I think Comey could beat him. I wasn't gonna listen to him.
He could. And here's the reality here, Gary. I think all the guys we mentioned could beat Kambosos. That's because the top 10 in this division is very talented right now. Let's be honest about it. The top 15 is very talented right now in this division.
You even got Tanahara yet.
Oh my God, stop, Gary. I beg of you, please stop. But Kambosos, like gun to my head, he wins some of these fights. And if we're talking about the top 15, probably the majority of the fights.
I can't. I'm not saying he can't. I wouldn't bet on it. Like, I wouldn't bet on hardly any of those.
No, it's not about gun to your head.
Yeah, if you're saying who do I think wins, I'm not picking Kambosos. I'm not saying he can't win any of those. I don't like him in any of those fights.
Oscar said Rolly Romero. I hate the chat. The chat today.
You've been on one. I think Rolly beats him. I wasn't gonna say Rolly either because there's nothing on Rolly's resume that tells me Rolly beats him, but Rolly can hit. I wasn't gonna say Rolly.
No, Ken Lopez and fucking.
You're right.
I mean, Kambosos is now battle tested. We learned that he can adapt. We learned that he has enough power at the top of the division. We learned he has enough boxing skills at the top of the division. Cardio. Like, he passes every metric of like, you know what, he could hang at the very, very top. He does. Like I don't see it as a Buster Douglas situation for Kambosos. I don't see it like that. I think that's very disrespectful to George Kambosos because that was a amazing win, and his tactics, his strategy in that fight were on display, and that can be replicated in other fights. If you have good strategy and tactics, you can replicate that with other matchups. You can adapt to that then. To the chat, just I hate it. I hate it right now. Anyways, moving on.
Someone said Tanahara schools him.
He doesn't, dude. He what? You don't believe that, do you, Gary?
Tanahara's got skills for days.
Gary, just blink twice if like the Tanahara team or family is listening right now, so you can't be honest.
I didn't list Tanahara's. I gave you the names that I thought could beat him.
Guys, he blinked twice.
If you sit here long enough,
it's up. Also on the card, Raymond Ford picked up a win. Riley Zhang picked up a win as well. And that's about it from fights that I care about or remember on that card. Gary, any other thoughts on Lopez, Kambosos? I mean, you want to talk about what's next for Lopez at 140? What you see, him tracking up there, what he can do up there?
He'll go up to 140, and he's on Top Rank. He will fight. Well, Algieri's gone, so I'll take. He'll fight Cletus Selden. He'll destroy Cletus Selden at Madison Square Garden in the small theater, and then he'll fight Josh Taylor.
Josh Taylor wins, unfortunately.
It's hard to pick. It's hard to pick him. Team Lopez right now, unless Taylor gets a Crawford fight and then goes to 47, and then he'll pick up a vacant belt.
Nah, I don't think that happens. I think we get Spence Crawford. I think we get Spence Crawford ASAP. My guess is that that's going to be like the Super Bowl weekend card, right, Gary? Like the card either after or before or on that weekend, whatever it is.
I hope so.
I think it is. That's what I would do if I'm them, or maybe wait for like March Madness, maybe if you're doing it on ESPN. But I don't know what they're going to do. But anyways, digress. Let's get to Crawford Porter now, Gary. I don't have it up on the board. I forget exactly what round Kenny Porter decided to ruin his son's career.
10.
It was the 10th round. Yeah. I'll briefly give my thoughts on like the fight, and then I want to rant a little bit about what happened with Kenny Porter. The fight up until the finish was a high-speed chess match, to use like the stereotypical phrase. Like neither guy was landing that well and that consistently, but you can tell they were always moving, trying to get into position to land with a better angle. And both guys' defense was just on display. I thought both guys were doing very well to slip, block, and parry the other shots. And it made the fight a little bit frustrating at times, I feel like, as a fan, because nothing was really like landing a lot at times in certain rounds. I thought Porter was winning a lot of the rounds. I'm not going to say I thought he won most of the rounds up until the finish because I don't really remember what my scorecard was.
I had it 6-3, Porter. I can see 5-4. I had it 6-3 though, but it was either 5-4 or 6-3.
I want to say I had Porter up, and then the finish happened, and Crawford hurt Porter significantly. And I will say, I'll give the caveat of I absolutely do think that Crawford would have finished Porter, given another 2 minutes of that round and another 2 more rounds after that. However, Kenny Porter throwing in the towel that way, completely throwing his son under the bus as to why he lost, saying that he threw in the towel not because he was hurt, but because he felt like his son wasn't dedicated and wasn't training enough ahead of this fight. Which I thought was a fucking wild thing to say right there in the post-fight interview in public on national TV or on pay-per-view TV. And then Sean Porter retires. I think largely due to embarrassment from his dad. That was one of the most like wildest post-fight scenes I've seen. And like it wasn't even a brawl or anything crazy like that. Just that interaction to me was ridiculous. And I low-key feel bad for Sean Porter. And I think Kenny Porter should not be training anyone right now. And I think Sean Porter should get away from his dad as a trainer because that is a career-damaging move. That was the worst thing I've seen. And I work in PR in some sense. So I understand like public relations. That was a PR nightmare. That was awful. That was one of the most dreadful father-son interactions I've seen in the ring. Gary, your thoughts?
That father-son dynamic can be brutal, man. I remember still Ken Griffey Jr. going on the DL for like 3 years because of a bruised ego when Daddy yelled at him in the dugout. That father-son dynamic. I don't think it. I mean, we have examples where it works. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's a good recipe. How's Floyd his dad? How many times Floyd kicked his daddy out in the gym? And his dad's like, "You're about to be 41-1. I'm gonna beat your ass like the old days, right?" Like, I don't like. I get it. Your dad got you there to this level, and I get that. But like at a certain point, like I just don't think this is. I don't think it's healthy for the relationship, and I think you get things like that. Like they're too close to it, right? Like, and then you have things like TV with Lopez, where his dad should not be. Get a real trainer, right? Get a top-notch real trainer. Like my dad told me how to play baseball. He didn't go up to college and coach me, right? Like they have coaches for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no shame saying I got him this far. Here, you can still be in the camp. You know, you can still be a voice there. You can still know how to talk to your son, but let an accomplished trainer who's trained world champions, who does this every day with world-class fighters, let them have their hands on. I'm not saying don't be there. Yeah, you have to be kicked out of the gym and you know, disowned. But I've said this about Angel Garcia for years. Give him the Breadman. Let Breadman. He's known Breadman since he was a kid, right? Let Breadman train him, and you sit back and you be the second. You be the co-trainer, right? This is what I know about my son. And then share that with Breadman and let Breadman work with him. And I'm just using Breadman as an example. Right? It doesn't have to be Breadman. But like this father-son dynamic, it gets ugly, right? Like it's just you're too close to it, right? Like if you ask a movie director of the greatest movie ever, they don't like it because they see everything wrong with it, right? I feel like this is kind of like that. Like, there's nothing that Porter's going to do. Sean, I mean, that's going to make his dad happy. You know what I'm saying? So, there's always something he could have done more, right? So, just let someone else train him. I'm not saying disappear from the camp, but here, you're a trained professional. You've done this with countless world champions. Buddy McGirt, you train him. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to watch. I'm going to tell you what I know about my son, but you train him. Like, I feel like that has to be done.
No, I 1000% agree, Gary. I mean, that was, here's a word that Frank said in the chat over on Twitch, dreadful. Like, it was dreadful to see. Like, think about this, guys. Like, Sean Porter's entire reputation, according to fans, is being one of the most, like, toughest, grittiest fighters in the division. A guy that's going to be in your face for 12 rounds, right? He's earned that reputation, right? Through the hard work of his career. And this is probably, it's not the biggest fight of his career per se. I think maybe the Spence fight's the biggest fight of his career. But this is up there. Like, this is arguably the biggest fight of his career. If he had won this, he's right back in there. He's fighting Earl Spence in a rematch. Like, that would have happened. Like, he would have had a chance to become an undisputed welterweight champion. And his dad stopped the fight, and he admitted he stopped the fight with Sean not being hurt. Like, that's so damaging to that reputation of a tenacious fighter. It's like saying, like, no mas for Roberto Duran. Like, that hurt Roberto Duran's reputation for years, and he had to recover from that through getting great knockout wins, great fights again in higher weight classes. You know what I mean? Like, he had to go reclaim that reputation in a way that was lost in the no mas fight. This is kind of like that in my perception for Sean Porter. Like, the team admitted he wasn't hurt, but they stopped the fight because he wasn't training. Like, that's That's insanity to me that they would admit that. Let alone the fact that I don't think Kenny Porter is that great of a coach. But digressing. Crawford, though, Gary, I mean, what's your perception of Crawford now heading into a potential Earl Spence fight? I mean, he beat Sean Porter under a little asterisk, half asterisk, where we're not happy with the stoppage, so to speak. But I don't know what your thoughts are on Crawford with the finish. Do you think that he would have got the finish? We both had Porter up on the scorecards. Just what's your thoughts on Crawford now heading into that potential Spence fight?
I think that now becomes a 10-7. If they don't stop it, that becomes a 10-7 round, right? And now we have either an even fight or you have Crawford ahead on the cards with 2 rounds to go. I think Crawford closes it out and wins the fight on points after getting the 3-point round. So I do think Crawford was on his way to winning the fight, which I think also played a part in why Kenny stopped it. He's too far behind on points now. He's not going to win a decision, and he's been dropped twice. I don't know. My guess was when Sean Porter retired immediately after the fight was that him and his dad had the conversation, if I lose, I'm done. And he lost, so they retired. So he's like, I'm not going to let him take any more because this is his last fight anyway. So I'm just going to stop it now because you can't win. I don't know. I'm guessing. I don't know. But Crawford's performance, he got it done. He got the stoppage. He got the knockdowns, just the way that Tank did with Barrios when he thought he might be behind on scorecards. And people told Canelo people said Canelo and Caleb Plant was close going into the 11th round. Canelo got the stoppage. Like, he closed it out when he needed to. And even if you think it was an early stop, or you can't say it was an early stoppage, but even if you think it's a bad stoppage from his father, he still scored those 2 knockdowns, right? He still got the 10-7 round and rallied when he needed it. So kudos to Crawford. I just wish it had better closure than it did, right? It's like the last episode of The Sopranos. It's like, why did you do that? Like, why are we ending it like this?
Just fade to black. Are you picking Earl Spence against Crawford?
Yeah. Can I see Spence again though? Because again, he's got a car accident. He's got the eye. He hasn't fought much since the Porter fight. He's only fought.
No, Danny fight.
The Porter fight was 3 years ago. He's fought once in that time. Let me see Spence again. I mean, if we go straight into the Crawford fight, I guess I'm kind of maybe pick Crawford just because Spence to me is kind of an unknown, and Crawford's too good of a fighter to go right into. But Spence is a pro. I mean, Spence is one of the best fighters in the world. It shouldn't be that big. I don't know. That's a tough fight. That's tough. Ideally, I'd like to see Spence fight someone else first, and then fight Crawford. But I don't know. That's still a lot.
You want a tune-up?
I don't want to. I want a tune-up, but I don't want. Jesse Vargas would always be that name that I would throw at you, but he's running for Congress or Senate. Vargas.
As a Republican.
Abel Ramos. How about that for a name? I don't want a soft touch. I want a good fighter. I want a valid fight. Abel Ramos. Is that a good name?
I'm not happy with it. I'll be honest, Gary. The whole time off thing, it doesn't bother me. We're in the post-COVID world. Fighters taking huge times off right now. It just feels like that era. We're even more so. We're fighters can take a year off or 9 months off due to a variety of reasons that are outside their control now, right? Lopez Kambosos is the perfect example of that, right? Where that fight was pushed back time and time again for a variety of reasons. So it doesn't really bother me as much. And plus, these are top world level athletes.
A plus fighters.
Yeah, they're training year round. They have private gyms they go to. I don't think it's that much of a concern. If this was in an era where they had day jobs and they needed to keep busy, so they weren't rusty, it was the 20s and 30s and 40s and shit, yeah, maybe they should fight 10 times a year still. But I'm okay with them if in this era they can only fight once or twice a year. As if they give us the good fights, I'm okay with it. Now, if Spence comes back and fights Abel Ramos and takes another year or two off and then fights Crawford, I'm not happy about that at all. Right? Like if he fights Abel Ramos in like February or whatever, I would assume and expect he fights Crawford by the fall. Right?
Yeah. Well, but yeah. For sure.
But we're in the post-COVID world. We're now hoping that all the stars are going to align. Shit's going to work, man. I don't know. I just rather if they can expedite it and make it happen in the next 3 or 4 months, do that. Like, don't wait. We've waited long enough. Crawford's already 33 years old. No, we're good. Let's move on. Let's see who's the best guy. Like, I don't care about like needing that like consistency from them. The Jump Tube on YouTube making a great question to you, Gary, saying you don't know if he can handle Ugas, but you're picking him over Bud. Question mark?
I say he can't handle Ugas. He would beat Ugas. I'm saying that's a lot for I don't want to call it a welcome back fight, a fight after a long layoff like that. Like Ugas is nothing to play with. Ugas just beat Pacquiao. Like you guys make it sound like Ugas is some second-rate fighter. Ugas just beat Pacquiao,
and he did it with no eyebrows.
I did no eyebrows.
Like, do we ever think about that? No, we need to put that in real context, guys. He did it with no fucking eyebrows. True sociopathic shit. Anyways, moving on. Gary, unless you have any other thoughts about Crawford, Sean Porter?
No.
Okay. Also, ladies and gentlemen, if you missed anything so far, we've talked about, or you're just joining us, we've talked about Canelo, talked about Crawford Porter, talked about Tifo Lopez, George Kambosos. So just rerun the show. Watch that shit. Hit the like button. All that usual shit. Links below if you want to follow us, support us, whatever. Moving on. Devin Haney. Proving us wrong again. I feel like this show is a lot of us being wrong, Gary. Like, except for like more so you than me.
Who picked Usyk to beat Joshua?
Okay, I'm talking about this specific episode of the show.
Episode.
Okay, this specific episode here. Think about this. We both lost with Lopez Kambosos. Right?
Well, everyone did. The whole world did. Nobody.
Hey, it still counts, Gary.
For sure.
You pick Caleb Plant. Okay.
I didn't really think he was gonna win.
No, but Gary, you picked him. I told you there were ramifications of that pick. This is what I'm talking about. Okay. We both picked Jojo Diaz. Right? We both picked Porter, didn't we?
Yeah. It's not good.
Dude, man, it's rough, man. I only have one win, and it's fucking Canelo, who's pound for pound number one, who's fighting a guy that had only one decent win.
He got Porky Medina way back in the day, too.
Okay, he has one decent win still. Fuck, Gary. Yogi the Bear saying UFC talk. Guys, maybe I'll come back later this week and do a UFC show. I cannot promise it, but I will try to. Okay, because I want to do more shows. Got this nice little new studio room. So I will try. Yogi the Bear. I will try. I know you're a UFC MMA fan. Obviously, Amanda Nunes just lost, so people want to talk about that shit. But sorry. NJMP saying we're going to talk Logan Paul versus Tyron Woodley. Obviously, that's the biggest boxing fight of the weekend. Marquee event, Gary. Marquee. Anyways, digressing. Devin Haney, the Jojo Diaz. Another pick we both lost. Devin Haney dominated this fight. And even though he didn't hurt Jojo, I didn't really expect him to. At least he did the thing that I requested of Blajo Saunders, where if you're not gonna knock someone out, at least throw a ton of punches. Try to make it exciting. You know what I mean? Especially if you're gonna just overpower your opponent and he's not your level. At least try to get the finish. At least try to make it fun. Devin Haney did that because Jojo wasn't doing anything back at him. Wasn't throwing any combinations. Wasn't doing anything that was stereotypical Jojo Diaz. So Devin Haney kind of had free reign to jab him, beat him up, go to the inside, attack the body, and kind of just play with him at times. This was a real dominant performance I want to say I either gave almost every round to Devin Haney or every round to Devin Haney.
Oh, I didn't have it like that. Did you really?
Yes. Dude,
Okay,
what
I
did
didn't have it
JoJo
that
do?
wide.
That was
I thought JoJo won a bunch of rounds, 3 or 4 rounds. I didn't have it wide like that. I mean, I had it wide. He clearly won. I didn't have it
at
like that.
most he won like 2 or 3 rounds. At
What
most.
were the official scorecards were a lot close now, weren't they?
No.
What
I
were the
mean,
officials?
2 scorecards of 117, 111. So that's 3 rounds. That's the
That's 3
most
rounds.
I would give. That's the most I would give JoJo, and that's been very,
And
very
a
nice.
116, 112.
116, 112, which I don't agree
So
with.
17, 11, 16, 12 is kind of where I sort of fight too. It was 3 or 4 rounds I gave to JoJo. I thought JoJo
Frank
was.
is, yeah. Frank had 10-2 in the chat. Regardless, this was a very dominant fight from Devin Haney, Gary. Like there was no way to mince words about that. Like this was exactly kind of what I wanted to see from Devin Haney in terms of outclassing a top-notch veteran fighter because he hadn't done that yet, and this was that. Your thoughts, Gary, on the
No, I thought it was an A performance. I said like when I picked JoJo, I thought JoJo's not really a hitter, but he's a really good inside fighter. He's going to bring the pressure. He can also box really well, right? So he's not going to get badly outboxed from the outside because JoJo Diaz is criminally underrated. I've always said that. So I thought, okay, Devin's going to try to run. He got rocked by Linares a few times. He doesn't want that. He's going to get on his bicycle and run for 12 rounds. The first round of the fight, he had JoJo going backwards at times. So he fought, like, he did what he had to do. Like, it was an A++ performance from Devin Haney. Best performance. I'm one of the biggest Devin Haney fan before this. That was a really, really good performance. He, like I said, didn't run the whole time. I mean, he's off the back foot a lot because that's how he's going to fight, but he stood in with them. He got him to the body. Like, he all of a sudden, he became a body puncher in spots. Right, Devin Haney fought really, really well in that fight. I can't find anything really to criticize Devin Haney in that fight. Like I said, it's an A++. Of all the lightweight to what I think he had the best performance. You know, this last month and they've all kind of fought. I think Devin Haney's was the best.
Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, when I was first scheduling the show, for one, I totally forgot that Lopez Kambosos falls in this period of time that we had done a show. So that wasn't the title. But I had put Haney JoJo ahead of Tank Davis just because I thought out of respect, like Haney had the best performance. Haney put on a performance that made me think that he could beat Ryan Garcia. I mean, I still think he loses probably to Loma. Right? I think if Teal was still in the division, that'd be a tough fight. If Tank is staying in the division, I think Tank beats him. I think Kambosos and him is a 50-50 fight. I'm being quite honest. I think he beats Richard Comey. But I still think he's a few years away from being the finished product that he could be, if that makes sense. This fight to me was more indicative of seeing all the tools that he has to be a real world champion. Because I hadn't really seen them all yet, I think. I see now that he has enough in his tool bag to be a long reigning champion, but he's still probably 3 years away from that. When like a guy like Shakur Stevenson, who just put on a great performance against Jamal Herring, I think has all the tools now to be a long reigning champion. Like Shakur Stevenson on any given night can beat every one of these guys at lightweight too.
Yeah, Shakur Stevenson might be the best fighter in the world, south of Canelo, but he just needs to prove it now, right? He needs to go out there and do it, but the skills are all there.
With Haney, I still see immaturity in his fight ability. Not in him per se, though maybe he is immature. I don't know. I don't care. But I still see amateur style at times. I still see just a needing of maturity of his skill set, a needing of maturity of him as a fighter. So give him 2 or 3 years. And I think he'll be somebody that we say is in the pound for pound, possibly. Honestly, but I still don't give him like Gary. Like you don't think he beats all these guys right now, do you?
No. I think Tank is too much for anyone. I think Tank is the best lightweight in the world.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do. Loma, look, it was dominant performance. It was great. It was a vintage. I see Father Time kept catching up with Loma just a little bit. He's getting tagged at the end of those combinations. He's throwing 3 and 4 punches instead of 6 punch combinations. I see Father Time catching up with Loma just a little bit. Now it didn't impact him. He dominated Coma. It's a great performance, but I can see him slowing down just a little bit. But I would still pick him over Haney. After that, I don't know. He might. I picked Zepeda to beat him too. Zepeda's my sleeper. He's a dog, man.
I think Haney beats Zepeda. I'm sorry to say that as well. That would be a great fight. Don't get me wrong. But I think Haney's a little bit too much still for Zepeda. Zepeda is just going to be that guy that can rough up everyone and then give good fights to the top 5.
If JoJo was a puncher, do you think he would have done much better in that fight? He would have, right? Like if he could.
JoJo is a puncher.
JoJo's not a puncher. JoJo's a volume guy. JoJo doesn't have one punch power.
Where was the volume?
It was not yesterday. The volume was for 2. The volume wasn't against Haney for sure. No, that's for sure.
I mean, in my mind, JoJo is a puncher in the sense that everyone we see him go on the inside, throw combinations to, he gets their respect every time. Even guys like Gary Russell, he got his respect. He just didn't even seem interested in the fight at times. Like, I don't want to say that too much. I feel like it's taken away from Haney's performance, which I thought was really spectacular. But that was a JoJo that was off. Like, he went entire rounds again, not throwing anything back, hands up, and again, not even trying to slip, parry, or block shots, just eating shots.
It was not a great performance. It was not a great performance.
It was awful. You're telling me that I have to trust that guy to, to do that, or I just can't. I can't. No, what? NJMP saying Stephen Fulton wants to fight Boots Enos. No.
Congratulations to Stephen Fulton. And he was on Twitter hard trying to convince himself that he won that fight.
Fuck. Gary, have we not talked about that fight either?
We haven't. I wasn't outraged by the decision. Like I thought it was fair. I really did. I watching it, I couldn't score it. Like I was too jittery. But Santiago was scoring it for me. And he was sending me over, and he had it for Figs, but he had 5 even rounds. So those for Fulton, right? I thought this was a 1-point fight either way, right? Fulton was doing the better work from long range, and those are easier to score than trying to guess what lands on the inside, what's partly blocked. That's the easy stuff to score. So when it went Fulton's way, I wasn't really surprised. I mean, Fulton fought great, man. I'm obviously I'm a Figueroa fanboy, right? Like both of them. I don't have a problem with that decision. I probably, with Figueroa colored lenses on, I'd probably score it for Figueroa, but I have no problem with Fulton winning that fight.
I have no problem with Fulton winning the fight, but I had Figueroa winning it.
That's,
to be honest.
I hear that's like the common opinion that I'm hearing.
And it's also one of those fights where, like you said, even though I wasn't jittery, it was incredibly hard to score. Incredibly hard. Santiago having 5 rounds that were 10-10. First off, is a complete Santiago move. 2, I can see how he got to that number of 5 rounds at 10-10 because there were 5, 6. It was half the fight pretty much. That was like, hey man, I I remember watching my girlfriend, and we were like, I don't know who's winning these rounds, but I'm thoroughly entertained. There were plenty of rounds where on fight night itself, I just stopped scoring and I just moved on. I just didn't care. I was like, that's a toss up. Like, I'm not going to try to score it. And then trying to go back and score it. I thought Fig won, but it was close. I mean, it's a 1-point fight. I would love to see a rematch on the line.
He had it 7-1 and 4 even for Figueroa.
What's the final number tally, though?
119, 113. You don't hear scorecards like that because nobody scores 4 rounds. I love Santiago. I hope he's listening right now.
It can't be 113 though, can it?
I'm reading the text right now. Final score 7-1-4 even, 119, 113, 7, 8. Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Damn, that does look real odd, real weird. Anyways, NJMP saying that Cool Boy wants to run it back, so no problem. Yeah, he does. So we're gonna see that fight again sooner rather than later. My only concern is
not 22.
Yeah, but they can do it at fucking 126. Who cares?
Sure. Yeah, 100%.
They just have to like. What's probably gonna happen though is not gonna happen immediately again. They're gonna run it back probably in a year or two when Figueroa beats Gary Russell Jr. Right, because that's what they're going to angle.
That's a big if. Ray Vargas. That's a big if right there. Gary Russell Jr. is an A++ fighter. Gary Russell Jr.
He holds the belt. He holds the belt. Like that.
He does.
Like if Figueroa's moving up to 126, like he's now going to be angled for a Gary Russell fight. Now, not next, obviously, because he just lost. So you have a tune-up or 2 or 3 or 4 because it's Figueroa.
That's going to be fun, man. That's going to be like the most skilled fighter against Figueroa and what he does. I'm in love with that fight.
Yeah. Look, Gary, you know me. I don't think Figueroa is like the greatest thing, but I also thought he beat Stephen Fulton. He clearly is one of the most exciting fighters in boxing right now. I worry about that style, man.
He's not going to have a long run for sure, like his brother. And the problem was he was better than he showed. He wasn't jabbing his way in. He was just bum rushing. I mean, he can like. I'm not saying he's got a jab like Caleb Plant has a jab, or that even he has a jab like Canelo has. But he can fire his jab. It's long and it's effective, right? Like he can use it. He didn't use it. He also didn't move his head, right? He's pretty good at moving his head and slipping and sliding like Tyson to get inside, right? Plus he's long, so he's like one step and he's back on top of you. He was fighting like his brother, which is limited. They have a same style, but Figueroa is much better at it than Figueroa. Brandon's much better at that style than Omar is. Omar is like kind of like a blunt object. He just comes straight at you. Figueroa moves his head a little bit. He uses his jab more, and that's why he had so much success quicker than his brother did. Because he's more finely tuned than Omar was. But he didn't show that against Fulton. He was just going right after him.
Also on the card, Jessica McCaskill pick up a win against Candy Wyatt. Montana Love pick up a win against Carlos Diaz. Montana Love, the truth. He's everything Joshua Greer was supposed to be.
That's my boy. Yeah. That's my boy.
I'm throwing that idea out there, like that flashy knockout punch artist that like all of a sudden just like breaks out of like the Showbox, ESPN Plus box and like umbrella. Montana Love is going to be a title contender at some point. I guarantee it. Filip Hrgović pick up a win against some guy. He's also undefeated, but I'm just not going to try to pronounce the name. It looked very difficult. Emma Williams back. Gary.
It's my boy with Kevin Cunningham. I wasn't expecting that.
Didn't look the greatest. I mean, picked up a TKO win, but he was eating some shots, Gary. I didn't like his defense in this fight, but he's had a layoff, had a little bit of a mental breakdown.
Mental breakdown, new trainer.
I'm gonna let it slide. It's okay. But Gary, we need to talk a little bit about the best prospect in boxing right now, Mark Castro, aka Elon Musk, illegitimate son. God, I love Mark Castro fights. He's probably gonna be my Figueroa, Gary. I'll be honest. I feel it. That he's so exciting. He's a little tiny mini Triple G too. I love
Who gets to a world title first, him or Keyshawn?
Keyshawn fought, was it last weekend, right?
This past weekend. Yeah, he fought on yeah.
I'll be honest, Garrett. I only saw like a round of it. I didn't see I saw like a minute of it.
Yeah, that's all you need to see. That minute, just replay that over and over again. That's what it was.
Yeah, I'm picking Mark Castro to get a belt.
Castro's good, man. Castro's good.
And he's going to get fast-tracked faster. That's the reality.
That's for sure. He will.
He seems to have a little more of a fan base. And he's more exciting. I think he's a little more marketable. I just see that happening. Keyshawn Davis also is like a mercenary for hire right now. He's going to like all these different promoters and trying to get fights.
I went to the USA Boxing National Championships in Shreveport, Louisiana, and Keyshawn's youngest brother, Keon, was there. He lost in the finals. He didn't win. He lost in the finals. What is that? He's right in the semifinals against a kid from Harlingen, Texas, who trains out of Omar Juarez's dad's gym. Right. So all right, I got Keyshawn's brother. Oh, and Rashida Ellis was in women's bracket. Man, is she good? I mean, it was like levels. Like, she is so good. I don't know how she lost to, but she was like incredible. She's the best boxer there. Like, this is incredible. And then she was training, like, man, not bad. Right? Like, she's incredible. How did she lose? She lost to Dubois' sister. I don't know how that. She's so good. But anyway, so I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I got Keyshawn Davis's little brother, the youngest brother, against someone from Omar Juarez's dad's gym. I'm into this, right? So I don't know. The fight starts 5 seconds into the fight. I have a seizure, right? So I get up, right, and there's doctors and stuff. It's a boxing event, so they have all the doctors that are there, and the paramedics are there, so it didn't have to transport me anywhere, right? And I'm fine after it, right? But I'm sitting up. I'm like, I just want to go back to my hotel now, right? Because I stayed for the whole thing. It's like 5 days. I'm like, I just want to go back to my hotel and go. So like, well, you can't really take an Uber. You certainly can't walk. How can I get there, right? So they asked me all these questions. Juarez's dad walks up to me and he goes, "Do you have a seizure, Gary?" I was like, "Yeah." And his father's name was Moses. I was like, "How did Moses do?" He's like, "Against Keyshawn Davis's brother." He's like, "Not good." But that's what you're concerned about? You got all these doctors around you. You just passed out in front of a crowd of people and you're worried about how my fighter did? Not good. Oh my God. But like, I've had so many seizures, like it doesn't really faze me. I'm like, I'm okay. Like, I've been through this.
Definitely after like the first one, it's easier to expect the second one from personal experience.
And now I'm on like 5,000, so it's like it's wow. Where I live in Texas, like when you have a seizure out in public, like in the store, they just call the paramedics because they're not taking any chance, right? They're like, "Oh, he'll be fine." Like, so I can tell you like which of the little towns like Grapevine, Keller, Roanoke, Trophy Club, Southlake, Arlington. I can tell you which paramedics are quick and responsive, who has the most updated technology, because I've been in all the ambulances, all
of them. Anyways, where we at? Tank Davis, Isaac Cruz. I'll be honest, Gary. Okay. Do not judge me. I passed out right after the Fundora fight and woke up in the last round of Tank Davis, Isaac Cruz, and then just never went back and watched it.
You should. I mean, you shouldn't. It wasn't a great fight. Tank's getting a lot of hate because you're not going to get a spectacular knockout. You're not going to posterize your opponent every single fight, right?
What?
No, you're not. Right? Like, Isaac Cruz came to fight. Isaac Cruz is really good. I said Isaac Cruz was a better opponent than Rolly, and it was one of those things where it was like when Andy Ruiz went in for Big Baby, like, okay, you got a better fight on a replacement. I think you didn't get what you expected from Tank, but he showed you a lot of things. He showed you that he can fight going backwards. He was ripping off combinations going backwards. I've never seen him do that before. He hurt his hand. And in a close fight in which Cruz may or may not have been alive on the scorecards and needed that round, Tank won it off his back foot with just a jab against a good fighter who needed that round, right? Like, that's impressive. He was also we don't really think of Tank as a counterpuncher, right? Tank was countering really nicely. Like, Tank showed you a lot of things in that fight, even though you didn't get the result that you wanted, which is a spectacular knockout. I thought what Tank did was a really good performance. I get like an A- B+ performance. It wasn't his best performance. It wasn't his vintage stuff, but he showed you a lot of good stuff that we didn't know that he could do, or at least I didn't know he could do.
Well, actually, I'm gonna go back and watch it now because a lot of people said it was boring. I felt like that was like the consensus after the fight was like it was boring. Tank didn't get the knockout.
But you're sitting on it, right? Like, it's Tank, so you want to see a spectacular knockout. You didn't get that, but I think he showed a lot of good stuff in that fight. Right, it's like a Mike Tyson fight. You want to see Mike Tyson boxing off his back foot. You want to see him blow someone out, right? Mm-hmm. That's what people want with Tank. That didn't happen, but it's not going to happen. Right.
True. On the undercard, though, because that's what I watched, 2 fights in particular I want to talk about. Sebastian Fundora defeating my countryman, Sergio Garcia, in a really fun fight. And again, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Fundora just all of a sudden finding a jab, and that he is 6'7", and can do that against guys that are 5'8", 5'10". Shocked that he just all of a sudden figured that out. And Carlos Adames and Sergey Derevchenko. I mean, obviously, I thought it was going to be a good fight. Didn't expect it to be a good fight in that way, where Carlos Adames is this slick fighter all of a sudden and throwing these really nice counters and just kind of beating up Derevchenko. That was a very odd performance from both guys in a way, and it's still a really good fight. Gary, thoughts on the undercard?
Fundora got through it, right? Like, he was given a tough opponent. I thought a really live dog, and Sergio fought like a live dog. He was fought well, and Fundora had enough tools in the toolbox to get through a tough fight. So kudos to him. Again, people aren't going to love that performance, but I think giving the opponent and how he adjusted, I think it was pretty good performance by Fundora. I got full credit to him for that win. And then I called Adames. Who's that guy? Like, where was that guy when he got destroyed by Teixeira and stuff? Like that. I had written Adames off as a fun fighter who's going to lose to everyone in the top 10. Like, that's where I had him. That was a pretty good performance. Like, maybe I need to reassess where I rank Adames.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say like Adames beats Triple G or Demetrius Andrade or Jamal Charlo, but he has way more tools and skills than I thought he had. I always thought him just a plodding fighter.
That didn't jab. Like, if you said who went Adames or McGee, I guess McGee, because at least McGee is going to throw a jab, right? Like, Adames was good. Adames looked sharp.
Oh, Adames beats McGee.
I think so, yeah, for sure.
And McGee looked fantastic against Gabe Rosado, in my opinion.
It was his best performance since Saddam Ali.
And that doesn't really count as a best performance, right, in my opinion, for a variety of reasons. But digressing, what else was on that card? Oh, I don't think we saw this, but Luis Aries lost against Von Alexander, and that was off TV. Eduardo Ramirez picked a win against Miguel Mariaga. That's about it from that. Gary, any other thoughts?
No.
Okay, Lomachenko, the Matrix, back in action. And I have several thoughts about this fight. One, it was a really good fight for him and Comey. Not fight of the year contender, but it was a good fight. I don't understand what Loma was doing, letting Comey off the hook in the times he did. Because there was obviously 2 specific times he quite visibly let Comey off the hook. when he had him hurt, like dead to rights hurt. Ton of time on the clock. Like, I don't know what you're doing. And so obviously that would make someone think that Loma kind of beat up and washed up Kome. But then I think, Gary, you kind of talked about this earlier, alluded to this, the idea like every time at the end of Loma's combinations, Kome would come back with his own and land. Like, Kome was landing a lot on Lomachenko, more so than a lot of other opponents have. That's obviously due to Richard Come's ability, his talent, his power, his size in the division as well. But it also, I think, is a little bit up to Loma, as Gary talked about earlier, slipping in some ways. I don't know why he let him off the hook like that. And I don't know, because in my mind, Gary, he didn't slip enough off of his peak and, talent level to not be able to finish Kome in those spots.
I don't think he liked Come's power. And like you said, in all the exchanges, Kome was landing. I mean, he was losing the exchanges, but he was landing. I don't think Loma liked his power. I don't think, Loma wanted to risk getting hit by something big, and he was just going to kind of carry the day. I'm not going to go and take any unnecessary chances. That's the only, because he could have stopped him. It seemed like if he would have stepped on the gas, but he didn't.
Not that much. It's not like I was asking him to go to fourth gear. Just go to second gear. He's hurt. He's knocked down. Like, he went rigor mortis right there for a second. Like,
at one point his legs were buckling while he was trying to, survive the rounds. Like, go jump on him.
I just don't get it. Like, you're talking about a guy in Kome that doesn't really have the fundamentals like Loma has to set up shots at the right angle and set up counters like he needs to, especially when he's hurt and wobbling on his legs. I just fundamentally don't understand why Loma did that.
And Kome is way too nice of a guy. Okay, this thing that ESPN was trying to sell me, that Loma was concerned for Come's health and he was trying to convince his corner to stop it. Stop. He was being a showman. And if he would have done that to me, and when he told Kome to go back to his corner after he wobbled him there in the third round, I would have went up and hit him. Like, you're talking to my corner, I'm going to hit you. Right, we're going to fight. Okay? You want to talk to my corner? You do that at your own peril. I'm gonna hit you now. Like, Kome let him talk, and then it's like, okay, you want to fight now? No, we're in a fight. The fight started already. There's no timeouts. I'm gonna hit you now. But I remember Gaddy complaining to the ref in like the first round of his fight with Mayweather that he got hit behind the head, or he's complaining about something. Floyd Mayweather tattooed him and put him down. Like, let your corner deal with that in between rounds. Right now, you're in a fight. Like, I can't stand Loma. Tell me to go back to my corner, tag him, punch him in the face, hit him with a two-piece.
I'll be honest, Gary. The times that he would like play with his food, because that's what it felt like a punk kid playing with his food and his toys, right? And then when Kome would come back and like land a combination, I would really enjoy that. And I'm not a Loma hater like you, but like I really enjoyed it. And it's kind of because Kome is the perpetual, like, great guy in the sport. Yeah. Like, everyone loves Richard Kome, one of the nicest guys in the sport. And Loma is a little bit of a prick in the ring. Like, he's a jackass.
Damn, Loma.
Like, and you either love that or hate it. And I think it just depends at times. Like, it just didn't make sense in this fight, in those times, to be a jackass like that, Loma. Like, go finish the fight, please. Like, why are you doing this? And then you would do it and let him back into the fight to beat you up some more. You know what I mean? Like, it makes no sense to me. NJMP is saying that Robert Hipster beat Kome better than Loma.
I don't agree. I thought Kome won that fight, but
yeah, no, that was a back and forth fight of the year. That's indicative of the damage that both men received in that fight. Loma largely, controlled this fight. He just couldn't give us more shots.
Kome was having some moments, but it clearly wasn't enough to carry more than maybe 2 rounds, 3 rounds the most.
Exactly. He had moments. He was able to land his own shots, but not enough to win the rounds. Meanwhile, Hipster Kome was a back and forth fight that people had all over the place in scorecards. Also on that card, Jared Anderson pick up a win against Alexander Teslenko. Xander Zayas pick up a win against some dude.
He fought the Italian Stallion, didn't he?
Alicio Mastranzio.
Yeah, I don't know where they found this guy.
Yo.
Can Top Rank stop? I mean, this is a real prospect now who's closing in on contender status. Can we give him a real opponent? I know we like to score these. Come on, Top Rank. A little better than this. I'm not saying you got to throw him in with Brian Castano next, but a little bit step up from this.
I mean, Erickson Libin was fighting like Charlo at like 15-0,
so
man.
A little. I mean, look, it was my paisan. I wish him the best. That fight was for as good as Xander Zayas is what I'm saying. Like Zayas is a real talent. We can a little better than this. We can do better than this.
Your boy Nico Ali Walsh
survives
the legend.
The legend.
I didn't see the fight. I skipped this one.
Let's do it. Ali Walsh versus Matt Campbell. Campbell Hatton. This is Campbell Hatton. We should have those two guys fight. Just because.
Are they in the same division?
No, but who cares?
Fuck. I'd be so down for that. I think that should be the thing. Like, make all the sons of these great fighters fight other sons of great fighters.
But you could be Conor Benn. You could be an actual good fighter who's the son of a legend, or you could just be the son of a legend, right? Like Conor Benn doesn't need Nigel Benn to be a great fighter. Obviously, these guys need their dads or grandfathers to, you know what I'm saying?
You could be like Chavez Jr., like one of the greatest Mexican fighters of all time. All time. Great selection of cereals too, by the way. Great selection. Keyshawn Davis also on the card. Gary, again, I only saw like a minute of the fight. Thoughts on it?
Dominant performance, really good. Again, he's only had 4 fights now, so I mean, the level of opposition there is going to be what it is. He hasn't had nearly as many fights as Xander Zayas. Xander Zayas should be fighting better fighters at this point.
Jonas in the chat saying Ali Walsh versus Chavez Jr. They are in the same weight class. We can do it, guys.
Let's do it. I mean, at this, I don't know. I mean, Chavez is going to miss weight. He's going to be eating Fruit Loops in his underwear. Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, Chavez should win. He's clearly a lot better, but who Chavez? Who knows what you're going to get out of him?
He lost to Anderson Silva, guys.
Legend, though. That's one of the.
Like 44-year-old Anderson Silva that had broken both legs in half. He beat Chavez Jr., guys, in a boxing fight. Like, not an MMA fight, guys. A boxing fight with boxing gloves.
That's why I think Anderson Silva I should have another real fight. Like, he's done with MMA, right? Like, he's retired. Have another boxing. Let's just see what he can do. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be a world champion, obviously, but let's see what he can do. Who can he beat?
Have him fight Jake Paul. Where's Jake Paul's ass?
He'll beat Jake Paul. How about a real fighter? Like, I don't know what he can do, but, like, he beat Chavez. We can say what we want about Chavez, but Chavez was a decent fighter. Not he's crazy, but he was a decent fighter. Anderson Silva beat him. Like, let's put Anderson Silva in with kind of like
and dominated. Dominated.
I didn't see the fight. Did they dominate him?
You didn't see the fight, Gary? I'll send the link. I'll send the link, Gary. Right. You want to watch it.
I like Anderson Silva. I don't really like UFC guys, but I've always liked Anderson Silva.
And it's fun to dunk on Chavez Jr. It's like a great pastime for us boxing fans, guys. Come on. It brings us all together in these holiday seasons to dunk on Chavez Jr. Also on the card, Joseph Ward, some other people. Anyways, moving on from that, Gary, unless you have any other thoughts.
No, sir.
Conor Benn, who you just mentioned, beat up Chris Algieri and scored a fantastic knockout. I mean, that was a beautiful one too. Conor Benn is like a legit talent in the division. I would probably go as far to say that I think can beat other great prospects like Virgil Ortiz. Sorry, Gary. And I think that he probably beats up a lot of the top 10 right now, except for maybe that, that top 4 or 5 guys.
Well, he's going to fight Khan or Kell Brook next. And good for him. He deserves that payday. He's earned himself. And he gets to throw that guy. Whether, I don't know who's going to be Conor Brook. But he gets to dethrone that guy, and then he gets to build on that, and he gets to be a star of his own making, not just his last name. Right? Like I jokingly call him Nigel Benn Jr. Guys, Conor Benn's his own man. Conor Benn is really good. I don't know that he beats Boots or Verge, but he's in that conversation. Like the welterweight division has always been the talent division, but it's also been the other glamour division, south of the heavyweight division, and it's got 3 stars to move it forward. And Conor Benn is it's Conor, Virgil, and Boots.
And it's good that we have stars from like most of the major demographics in boxing. We have a Mexican American prospect that's going to be a star. We have an African American that's going to be a star. We have obviously a British fighter that's going to be a star.
UK guy, yeah.
Like these are 3 dominant markets in the sport, dominant demographics in the sport, and they're going to be the next generation in this division. I think Enos is clearly the head above them all. To be quite honest, like if I had a gun to my head, who's the best one right now of that group? It's Boots. I don't know what you think, Gary. I know you're an Ortiz fan.
But you know what I think, yeah.
I know.
No, I love Boots. I think they're all great. I mean, Boots is fantastic. Virgil destroys everyone. Virgil's a straight killer.
Ortiz did not destroy Mean Machine.
Knocked him down how many times?
How many times was he hurt?
Once in the first round.
It was more than that. You know it, Gary.
Right. I mean, the first 2 rounds were tough, and then after that, it was Virgil beating him down.
I want what you're on, Gary. I want what you're on.
Virgil's knocked every single opponent out, correct? The answer is yes. The answer is yes.
I don't know. I want to fact check this real fast, Gary.
He's got a 100%. He's got a 100% knockout percentage. You can't always knock out your opponent unless you're Virgil Ortiz. Then you knock out all your opponents.
Gary, come on, Gary. Ortiz is one of those dudes where I think he has too many holes in his ability and his skill set, especially defensively, and that's going to really hurt him at the top. Like he's going to end up being like the Danny Garcia of the group or the Sean Porter of the group.
He's going to end up being
and Gary, that's not a huge knock, obviously. Like both of those guys had great careers. Were world champions. Sometimes unified champions.
Garcia was a very good 140 pounder, a very good 140. He was never a stone cold killer like Verge. Verge destroys everybody.
Okay. He has destroyed a bunch of people that we don't know. And then Mauricio Herrera, who's not a welterweight, and a drunk alcoholic.
Was Herrera at 40 or 47? Because that was right around. It might have been in between. What was the Herrera fight at?
Was that 47?
Was that 47?
Yeah, but Herrera is not a 147-pound fighter.
No.
And he's a shot fighter. Okay. Who's not a heavy hitter. Okay. Antonio Orozco.
It's a good win.
It's an all right
win. Especially he's 20 years old.
It's an all right win. Especially if with more time now, what has Orozco done to make that win more meaningful?
Well, no, but at that time, he was 20 years old when he beat Orozco.
So? Orozco's always a B fighter. Moving on. Brad Solomon.
All right.
Okay, I don't even need to say anything about that one, right? Okay.
Right, let's skip that one.
Samuel Vargas.
Destroyed Samuel Vargas.
The only thing I'll give him on that is that Samuel Vargas is a tough fighter, and the fact that he knocked him out viciously. Credit to the power. But it's Samuel Vargas.
Wow, Orozco has not fought since the Virgil Ortiz fight. That's how bad Verge beat him.
Wow, he made a B-level fighter retire. Whoa.
That's who
Maurice
he beat
Maurice
Keandre Gibson. That's
Maurice Hooker.
former world champion.
How do you get that belt, Gary?
Beat Flanagan.
No, it was Luke. Is it Luke Flanagan, right?
No, it was Terry Flanagan. He went over. He beat Terry
Oh,
Flanagan.
Terry Flanagan.
He beat Terry Flanagan over in the UK. He went over to Flanagan's home and beat him up. Took his lunch money.
And then he beat
Mean
Saucedo, who you were never high on. Right, Gary?
He beat
Hooker. Hooker beat Saucedo.
Oh, Hooker beat yes, I said it was a bum.
Yeah. And then lost to Ramirez and then Ortiz Jr. Okay, that's Hooker right there. Legendary fighter.
Former world champion.
That doesn't mean much in today's boxing, Gary, and you know it.
Former world champion.
And then Mean Machine, who, I mean, is only known for losing to Terrence Crawford.
And fighting Ray Robinson to a draw.
Okay.
So that's the kind of fighter that he is. A 15-ish type of guy. He'll fight those guys.
I see all B fighters still.
I don't consider Hooker a B fighter, but sure. I mean, okay, fine.
Hooker is a B fighter that lucked himself into a championship. That happens. I mean, Gary, come on. Like we know that there's some champions before that have not really. They got an easy route.
Hooker, would you call Jamal James a B fighter?
Yes.
All right, then I don't. Okay, that's fine. I mean, I think you're a tough grader, but that's fine. Like, if you want to take Professor Gary's class instead of Professor Matt's class, because you'll get a B in Matt's class, you'll get an A- in my class for the same paper. So take my class.
The same paper.
You hand it to me, I'll give you A-, I'll give you a B. I'm an easier grader than Matt.
No, I mean, like, the A spot's reserved to like that top 3, like that top 5 maybe, but that has to be a deep top 5, and then it has to be relative to the top.
Yeah, and then Hooker's an A-. Like, Hooker loses to all the A fighters and beats everybody else.
I don't know about that. Because that put him in like again an A- category.
An A- category. That's where I'm putting him. A-.
And I don't. He can lose to Jamal James.
I think that's a really good fight. I think that could go either way. That's why I asked you how you would grade Jamal James, because I think that's kind of like an even fight.
He could lose to Jesse Vargas.
Exactly, and he could beat Jesse.
You know what I mean?
That's the level I'm putting him at. Yeah,
that's those are all B level guys.
B plus, A-, B plus. They're not A fighters. They're just below that.
Gary, a B plus is still a B.
Wow.
Just adding a plus to it.
Plus a B plus, A-, right? You're like
we're not using the U.S. educational GPA system.
Like, if this is 2K, you're a 95. You're a 90 rating. You're not 97 like Kevin Durant, but you're a 90. You're good. You're really, really good.
You're really, really good. Anyways, Gary. What were we talking about? How do we get on this?
Verge, and we're talking about the kind of like the
next Conor big Ben. 3. Conor Ben. Yes. His defense is really impressing me. I think that obviously, like, offensively, he's always been a little bit of an aggressive power puncher, but he's now masked that with this really slick, come forward defensive ability that I see a lot of guys doing nowadays.
And Devin Alexander was trashing him on Twitter, saying that he really only has power and there's nothing else to him. A little bit of power, he said. That's it.
Yeah, and
Devin's trying to talk himself into that fight. One more payday for Dev.
No.
Yeah, I should say Dev lost to Ivan Redcash. He came back. He lost to some guy. Who did he lose to in his last fight? Like, it's no more, Dev. Done. When you got knocked out by Ivan Redcash, that should have been the end of it.
Who literally just like pulled a dive, and what was that? What card was that again? He pulled the dive. Was it the Triller card with Regis Prograis?
Oh yeah. Why do we keep putting Ivan Redcash on cards? I forgot about that.
That's what we do, man. That's what we do, Gary. Anyways, where are we at? Connor Ben. Where is that?
And the rest of the card
also, Katie Taylor picking up a win against Ruza Sharapova. I think Katie Taylor, by the way, loses to McCaskill and Amanda Serrano now. Pointing that out there.
We come around to get Serrano. She definitely loses to McCaskill because McCaskill's bigger and better. But I think
and better. Jesus Christ. McCaskill all of a sudden just like become a really talented fighter. Because I never thought she was that talented before. But she's really developed well.
And she loses to Rashida Ellis, too. Rashida Ellis' sister. She's so good. Like, you know, why there's like levels to this. She's so good. I hope she wins a gold in 2024. Are we doing 2024 Olympics? Is that not going to happen? But 2022 is in China? Which one are they boycotting?
The winter.
The winter's 20. Yeah, I don't care about the Winter Olympics. I'm not interested in that. There's nothing in the Winter Olympics. I want to watch downhill skiing. No thanks. Curling? You want to watch that? No thanks.
Joe Cordina picked up a win as well. Robbie Davis Jr. picked up a win. Jordan Gill picked up a technical draw because the fight was stopped before the fourth round. Anyways, Gary, any other thoughts on that card?
No.
Okay. A brief mention of Donaire versus Raymar Gaballo, just because
didn't see it, forgot it was on, and my DVR didn't pick it up.
I mean, Gaballo looked good for like a round, and then just got beat the fuck up. Basically, what happened. And then Epikadorov lost against Cody Crowley. Cody Crowley, all of a sudden, looked good. Like Epikadorov is a fighter that beat Luis Collazo. That's always been a round title contention because of that. And Epikadorov got his ass beat bad. Like Cody Crowley looked good. And I don't want to say that because his name is Cody Crowley, and that sounds like he's some
crippler. It sounds like a jobber in professional wrestling.
It does. It sounds like a made-up name. It's not. It doesn't sound like a real name. It sounds weird. But he picked up a great win. Curtis Clayton
and he's
picked up
Canadian too, isn't he? I have no interest.
Yes, this was a major Canadian card for some reason because Curtis Clayton was also in the card as well and picked up a win. Andrew Tabiti picked up a win as well. Brandon Lee picked up a win. Marlon Tapalas picked up a win. But unfortunately, most of that was not televised. So, thank you, Showtime. Since you didn't watch it, we can just move on from that. Dmitry Bivol picked up a win against Umar Salimov. Dmitry Bivol, hype train.
It was a good win.
Bullshit.
It was fine. Like, I don't have a problem with the performance. It was fine. I give him a B for the performance. It was fine. It was nothing really spectacular, but he did what he was supposed to do.
I feel like that's my entire perception of Bivol now. Like, it's fine.
I was high on Bivol a while ago, and it's just like he's draining me now.
It's not. I don't know what happened, to be honest. But like I don't view him as a real threat against anyone that I care about, whether it's Better Beef in the division or Canelo. Like, I just don't see him as a legitimate threat. Even like Callum Smith moving up and facing him. Like, I'm picking Callum Smith probably.
I don't think he's knocked anyone out since that Trent Broadhurst fight where he kind of put everyone on notice. We're like, wow, who's this guy? This guy's really good. Like, I think he's just gone the distance with everyone, right? Sullivan Barrera, Chalumba, Pascal, Joe Smith. Like, he fights once a year and goes the distance in ho-hum fights. Like, that's really what he does now.
Yeah. There's a ton of fights this weekend. There's like 3 on DAZN. There's an ESPN Plus card.
I'm going to the Ramirez fight, Zorro Ramirez fight.
Oh, you are? Nice. For the sake of just time, we're not going to talk about that on this show.
No.
We're going to talk about that maybe on a Thursday show or a Friday show. I'm thinking of coming back and maybe doing 2 shows this week to make up for being gone. So we'll come back, talk about the weekend's fights, talk about any news, any topics you guys, the listeners, want to talk about because we've been gone for so long, let us know. But Gary, I think we've talked about all the major fights, man. Any other thoughts? Any fights we're missing?
No, I'm mentally exhausted too.
Yeah. It's been a long month or so for me personally. I apologize, guys, for not being on. Hopefully, we'll be back on more consistently going forward. Obviously, hit the like button, share the show, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Patreon.com/Training Now Network. Texas Boxing Scene. Make sure you go subscribe to that channel too on YouTube. Support all of Gary's work. Make sure you go to Taka for autism awareness as well. Just support your community. Support those around you. That's always important in times like today. Times like these. Gary, final thoughts?
I'll be at the Ramirez fight in San Antonio this weekend. Find me on social media, 3D Boxing, 3D Boxing blog, Texas Boxing Scene. All proceeds go to autism research and recovery. It is December. Oh, it just turned December 14th. Ivan Calderon didn't get in the Hall of Fame. I don't know what to do anymore, but whoever votes for this has to go. Like, this is just absurd at this point. It's just silly. We've entered silly time. So let's get Ivan Calderon in the Hall of Fame. We'll just get a brand new committee. It's like the Heisman. Half the people voting on it have no idea what they're talking about. Like, I don't know what's more incompetent, the Heisman voting or the Boxing Hall of Fame voting. Like, where do we find these people that vote for this? I remember when I lived in New York, the local radio show, WFAN, they got a Heisman vote. And the host of the show goes, I'm going to vote for the running back, the big kid from Stanford. So you don't know the name of the guy you're going to vote for as the best college football player in the world. That's what you're telling me. The big guy, the running back, he was talking about Toby Gerhart at the time. Like, but that's what he said. Like, and you get a vote for the Heisman. Why? You don't know the name of the person you're voting for. Like, it's not really a democracy. It's like we have qualified people who should meet some criteria, and those people vote. It's not like everyone gets a vote. Anyway, Ivan Calderon should be in the Boxing Hall of Fame. Texas is still not a country. Let's make Texas a country again. From Texas to the world. Thank you, and God bless.
Remember, at all times, fuck the police and free Palestine. Peace.